You want to change your life? Stop watching other people live theirs. The comparison is killing your confidence. The judgment is stunting your growth. And the distraction? It's stealing your destiny. By the end of this, your focus will be weaponized. And your life? Unrecognizable. Let me ask you something. Have you ever looked around and wondered why everyone else seems to be ahead? Why they got more money, more success, more attention? And while you're wondering, they're winning. Let me tell you the truth. You're not falling behind. You're just looking sideways instead of forward. And today we change that. Let me tell you a hard truth. Comparison doesn't motivate. It manipulates. It convinces you you're behind, even when you're right on time. It whispers lies like, you should be further by now, as if life is some conveyor belt we're all stuck on, moving at the same speed, chasing the same goals with the same tools. But life doesn't work that way. See, comparison is a thief. And the worst part is, it doesn't steal your car or your wallet. It steals your joy, your peace, your progress. It takes your attention off your path and glues your eyes to someone else's. Let me give you a picture. Imagine two runners on a track. One's running his race, focused, aligned. The other, he's glancing sideways every few seconds. Now tell me, who's going to win? It's not the one looking around. It's the one looking ahead. I remember a young man who once came up to me after a seminar. He said, "Jim, I don't get it. My friends have better jobs, better cars, bigger houses, and I'm working harder than all of them." So I asked him, "Son, what are you measuring?" See, he was measuring everything except what mattered to him. He wasn't chasing his own definition of success. He was chasing their version of it. Comparison will do that to you. It'll rob you of your unique design and hand you a counterfeit dream. Psychologists call this social comparison theory. It's the habit of judging your worth based on how you stack up to others. And the worst part? We usually compare our behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel. You don't see their struggle. You see their snapshot. You don't see the 10 years they spent building. You see the one post they made after the breakthrough. It's not a fair fight, and it's not a real picture. That's why you must train your mind not just to focus, but to filter out the noise, to block the broadcast of other people's lives so you can tune into your own. Because your life is not a race. It's a mission, and missions don't need comparisons. They need conviction. So here's the shift. Don't use someone else's life as a measuring stick. Use it as a mirror. If you see someone winning, don't envy them. Study them. Learn the principles. Apply them to your path. But never forget, your value was set before you ever achieved a thing. You're not late. You're not lacking. You're not lesser. You're just distracted. And the moment you stop watching their race is the moment you start winning your own. There's a reason jealousy feels so heavy. It's because it drags your spirit down to a level it was never meant to live on. Jealousy isn't just a feeling. It's a poison. It eats away at joy. It clouds your thinking. And worst of all, it convinces you that someone else's win is your loss. But life doesn't work like that. See, you don't lose light when someone else shines. The sun doesn't stop rising just because the stars lit up the sky last night. There's room. The problem is, jealousy blinds you to your own gifts. I once met a young woman after a seminar. She was talented, brilliant, had a heart full of ideas, but she was stuck. She said to me, "Jim, every time I scroll through social media, I feel smaller, like everyone else has it figured out, like I missed my chance." I looked at her and said, "Your jealousy isn't the problem. Your focus is. Because when all you see is what others have, you forget what's sitting in your hands. It's like staring so long at someone else's garden that you forget to water your own. Then you wonder why nothing's growing." Psychologists tell us that jealousy often masks insecurity. It's not really about them. It's about what we think we lack. But here's the truth. Their success doesn't mean your failure. Their spotlight doesn't make your candle dim. You just need to switch from jealousy to curiosity. Instead of saying, "Why not me?" ask, "What can I learn?" Because jealousy will leave you bitter. But curiosity, that'll make you better. Think of Thomas Edison. He didn't invent the light bulb in isolation. He studied hundreds of others before him, then added his own touch. He didn't envy the people who tried. He honored them by building on their shoulders. Now ask yourself, how much energy have you wasted resenting, comparing, silently competing? What could that energy have built? Jealousy says, they have what I want, and that's not fair. But joy says, if they have it, it must be possible. And if it's possible, it's reachable. I promise you this. You cannot grow in soil soaked with jealousy. But plant yourself in gratitude, and you'll flourish. So the next time envy sneaks in, pause. Don't deny it. Don't pretend it's not there. But don't feed it either. Trace it, face it, then replace it with action. The world needs your light. But it can't shine if you're too busy chasing someone else's. Remember this. Jealousy is the enemy of joy. And joy, that's the fuel for everything worth building. One of the greatest myths people live under is the belief that if enough people clap for you, you'll finally feel whole. But let me tell you something most people won't. You can't borrow respect. You can't beg for it. And you sure can't buy it. Self-respect isn't given. It's earned. And it's earned in private. The world will offer you applause, but applause is temporary. Respect? That's internal. It's a quiet confidence that says, even if no one sees me, I know who I am. Now, here's where most people get it wrong. They chase validation like it's fuel. They post, they perform, they pretend, just to hear someone say, you're enough. But the truth is, if you don't believe it when you're alone, you won't believe it when the world's watching. I once knew a man who made millions, fancy cars, lavish house, the whole thing. But he couldn't look himself in the mirror because everything he built was for approval, not alignment. He didn't trust his own judgment. He needed the world to tell him who he was. That's not self-respect. That's self-abandonment in disguise. Self-respect starts when you stop negotiating with your values. When you say, this is who I am, and I won't trade that for like a follow or a round of applause. And the kicker? No one can give that to you. You have to build it brick by brick, decision by decision, not in front of a crowd, but in the quiet moments. When you choose discipline over excuses, when you speak the truth, even if your voice shakes, when you walk away from what's easy to protect what's right, that's how it's built. Psychologists call this internal locus of control. It means your worth doesn't depend on outside forces. It comes from within, rooted in choices, not circumstances. Because the minute you hand your self-worth to someone else, you've just made them your master. Let that sink in. You can't outsource your self-respect to the world and expect peace. Because the world changes its mind daily. One day they'll cheer for you. The next, they'll criticize you. If that's where your identity lives, you'll be a prisoner of every opinion that passes your way. But self-respect? That's different. It doesn't yell. It doesn't beg. It knows. It knows what it stands for. It knows what it won't settle for. It knows that being respected by others means nothing if you don't respect the person staring back at you in the mirror. So ask yourself, not do they like me? Ask, do I trust me? Because in the end, self-respect isn't something you find out there. It's something you forge in here. And once you build it, no one can take it from you. Most people think self-love is soft, that it's bubble baths, vacations, and giving yourself a break. But let me tell you something different, something deeper. Discipline is the real self-love, because love doesn't just give you what feels good. It gives you what's right. Discipline is showing up, especially when you don't feel like it. It's saying, I care about myself too much to let myself drift. You see, anyone can do what's easy. Anyone can hit snooze, scroll for hours, and say, maybe tomorrow. But the person who truly loves themselves, they say, no, not today, not this time. They know that short-term comfort is the enemy of long-term peace. I once met a young man who told me, Jim, I just want to feel proud of myself. I want to wake up and actually like the person I see. So I asked, what are you doing daily to earn your own respect? Because pride doesn't come from potential. It comes from practice. It comes from choosing growth over ease. Again and again. Let's be honest. Discipline is uncomfortable, but so is regret. And between the two, only one gives you power. Psychologically, this is tied to what's known as delayed gratification. It's the ability to resist an immediate reward for a better one later. Children who master this skill tend to succeed more in life because they've learned something most adults still haven't, that every yes to comfort is often a no to your future. Discipline is saying, I love who I'm becoming more than I love how I feel right now. That's not harsh. That's honor. I knew a woman once who completely turned her life around. She was unhealthy, unhappy, and unmotivated. And one day she said, enough. She didn't start big, just 10 minutes a day, a walk, a journal entry, a promise to herself. But she kept showing up, not because she hated herself, but because she finally respected herself. That's the difference. Discipline isn't punishment. It's proof that you believe you're worth the effort. When you set a goal and follow through, your brain rewires. You become the kind of person who does what they say they will. Confidence grows. Self-trust strengthens. And that's the kind of love no one can give you but you. So the next time you think self-love is permission to avoid effort, remember this. Real love is sometimes saying no to another cookie, or turning off the TV, or waking up before the world is watching, just to invest in your own future. It's not glamorous, but it's powerful, because every act of discipline is a declaration. I believe in the person I'm becoming. And that, my friend, is the highest form of love there is. We live in a world obsessed with speed, with milestones, with highlight reels. By 25, you should have this. By 30, you should be there. By 40, you'd better have it all figured out. But let me tell you something they won't say on social media. Your timeline is sacred. It's not supposed to match theirs. It's not supposed to impress them. It's supposed to be true to you. You're not late. You're not early. You're exactly where you're meant to be, if you're still moving forward. I once met a man in his 50s who said to me, Jim, I feel like I missed the boat. Everyone else is ahead. I said, ahead of what? Who drew that line for you? Because comparison will have you running someone else's race, while neglecting your own. You see, the oak tree and the bamboo have very different timelines. The oak grows slow, steady, rooted deep. The bamboo, nothing for years, and then one day, it shoots up 6 feet in a week. But both are growing. Both are right on time. Psychologically, we fall into what's called temporal comparison, measuring our worth against others' timelines. But here's the danger. It creates unnecessary pressure. It replaces purpose with panic. And panic? It makes you settle. It makes you quit too soon. It makes you chase things that look good on paper, but feel hollow in your soul. Your timeline is sacred because it honors the pace of your becoming. I've seen people launch businesses at 60, fall in love at 70, find purpose after loss, clarity after chaos, and peace after decades of pressure. The timeline that matters is the one where you don't quit, where you stay committed to growth, even if no one claps, even if no one notices. I knew a woman who spent 10 years trying to write her first book. 10 years of false starts, writer's block, and doubt. But she stayed with it. And when it finally launched, it touched millions. Not because it was fast, but because it was authentic. And that's what matters. Don't rush the process just to keep up with people who aren't even going where you're going. Let them run. Let them sprint. You, walk your path. Run when it's time. Pause when you need to. But don't abandon your timeline just because someone else got there faster. There is no late in purpose. There is only alignment. So if it's taking longer than you thought, good. That means it's being built right. Character is being forged. Roots are growing deeper. Because when it's your time, you won't have to force it. You'll be ready. So respect your timeline. Protect it. Honor it. It's not just a path you're walking. It's a story you're becoming. And it's sacred. We all admire greatness when it's on display. The standing ovation, the smooth speech, the flawless performance. But here's the truth most people miss. Mastery doesn't begin on stage. It begins in silence. It doesn't start with applause. It starts with discipline. In the quiet hours, when no one's watching, When quitting would be easy and staying the course is lonely, I remember watching a world-class pianist perform once. Mesmerizing, hands floating across keys like magic. And someone leaned over and said, "He's gifted." Gifted? No, my friend. He's practiced. He spent thousands of hours in a room with nothing but a metronome and a chair, messing up, starting over, again and again. No audience, no lights, just repetition, just commitment. See, the world rewards a result, but mastery is born in the process, and the process is private. Psychologists call it the deliberate practice loop. It's not just repetition, it's focused, intentional effort with constant feedback and correction. It's when you train your brain to master one tiny detail until it becomes second nature. That kind of work? It's not sexy, it's not shareable, and it won't go viral on your social feed, but it builds something unshakable. I once coached a young speaker, ambitious, talented, but frustrated. He said, "Jim, I'm putting myself out there, but nothing's happening." I asked, "How often are you rehearsing?" He paused. "Not much, just when I get a gig." There it was. You can't rise in public if you're not refining in private. Private effort creates public power. Private consistency builds public credibility. Because when you've mastered something in private, you don't need to perform. You just flow. It becomes who you are, not just what you do. Think about the greats. Jordan, Jobs, Mozart, Serena. Yes, they had talent. But talent without training is a promise unfulfilled. They bled behind closed doors so they could shine in front of crowds. So here's the question. What are you building when no one's clapping? What are you refining when no one's validating? If the answer is nothing, then you're not aiming for mastery. You're chasing recognition, and that fades fast. But if you're grinding in silence, learning, tweaking, showing up again and again, then you're becoming dangerous. Not to others, but to your own excuses. That's when the shift happens. Not when the crowd sees you, but when you see yourself becoming someone you respect. So practice before you're praised. Refine before you're recognized. Build in the dark so that when the spotlight hits, you're ready, not lucky. Because real mastery, it never needs to announce itself. It shows up fully formed, forged in the private moments most people never see. You've heard, mind your own business. But I'll tell you something even more powerful. Mind your own energy. Because your energy, that's your fuel. And if you don't protect it, you'll find yourself running on empty, burning out for people who wouldn't even light a match for you. We all know someone who walks into a room and sucks the oxygen right out of it. Negative, draining, always complaining. Now, be honest. Have you ever walked out of conversation feeling more exhausted than you did going in? That's not time you lost. That's energy. And the quality of your life depends far more on the energy you manage than the time you spend. See, the mind has a limited budget each day. It's called decision fatigue. Every distraction, every pointless argument, every hour scrolling through someone else's life, it all costs energy. And if you spend your energy on drama, gossip, or the need to be liked, you'll have nothing left for your goals, your growth, or your peace. I once worked with a man who ran a multi-million-dollar company. Brilliant, sharp, great ideas. But every time he hit momentum, he'd get pulled into emotional chaos. A feud with an employee, a pointless grudge, or an online battle with someone he didn't even know. And he asked me, "Jim, why can't I keep moving forward?" I told him, "You're not short on time. You're short on focus. And your focus follows your energy." It clicked. He started cutting off the noise. He delegated, set boundaries, stopped explaining himself to people who didn't want understanding, just attention. In 6 months, he doubled his results, not because he worked more hours, because he finally guarded his energy. You can't control everything that happens to you, but you can control what you let affect you. When someone disrespects you, don't match their energy. Rise above it. When someone misunderstands you, don't chase approval. Stand firm in your truth. And when the world tries to provoke your peace, choose your response like it costs something, because it does. Your energy is not a free buffet for everyone to grab from. It's your investment, and it pays dividends in clarity, health, and results. Start noticing who drains you, what restores you, where does your spirit come alive? Because when you learn to mind your energy, you'll stop wasting it trying to fix what isn't yours. And something powerful happens. You become more grounded, more intentional, more free. Not because life got easier, but because you got smarter about what's worth your energy and what's not. So from this day forward, don't just guard your time, guard your light. Because once you do, you'll stop reacting to life and start creating it. Let's be honest. Every one of us has felt envy. You see someone winning, thriving, having what you want, and a little voice whispers, "Why not me?" That feeling? It's natural. But what you do with it, that's where the real growth begins. Envy can destroy you or it can direct you. The difference? Whether you use it as a weapon or a mirror. See, when we weaponize envy, we project blame. We criticize. We judge. We say, they don't deserve that, or they must have gotten lucky, or worse, they cheated the system. But in truth, their success is rarely your enemy. It's your teacher. What you envy reveals what you value. It shines a light on the desires buried beneath your complaints. And if you're willing to lean in, envy can show you what you've been avoiding in yourself. I remember years ago, a friend of mine launched a successful business. It took off faster than mine did. Same industry, same market, and I felt that sting. You know the one, tight in your chest, bitter in your thoughts. But then I paused, and I asked myself, why am I really upset? It wasn't about him. It was about me. He had the courage to take risks I was avoiding. He worked late nights I wasn't willing to endure. He did the uncomfortable things I kept postponing. So that envy, it wasn't about injustice. It was about insecurity. Envy, when you listen closely, says, there's a part of you that knows you can do more. It's not a flaw to feel it. It's a signal to face it. The problem is, most people don't pause. They point fingers instead of pointing inward. They waste time tearing others down instead of building themselves up, and in doing so, they stay stuck, trapped by resentment, blinded by bitterness. But if you choose the higher road, if you decide to use envy as a mirror, you'll see exactly where you need to grow. You'll see the dreams you buried, the efforts you've avoided, the strengths you've yet to unlock. And that moment of honesty, that's the beginning of your transformation. Start asking, what does this envy reveal about me? What am I not doing that I know I could be? Where do I need to get uncomfortable, consistent, and courageous? Because once you stop making envy about them, you start making your life about you. And when you do that, envy loses its grip. It no longer poisons your peace. It becomes fuel for your focus. So next time you feel envy rise, don't silence it. Study it, use it, and let it push you, not to compete, but to evolve. Because the truth is, the success you envy in others is simply reminding you, you were made for more. There's a quiet trap most people fall into. They start living their life as a reaction to someone else's, always watching, always measuring. And before they know it, they're not walking their own path. They're chasing someone else's shadow. But here's the truth. Your journey is the only competition that matters. Not your neighbor's journey. Not your coworkers. Not the stranger online posting curated highlights. Just yours. Now I know it's easy to get caught in a race. You see someone achieving more, having more, being more, and that old voice creeps in. You're behind. You're too late. You should have done more by now. Let me stop you right there. You're not late. You're not early. You're right on time for your life. You see, comparison is a thief, but competition with yourself, that's where the real transformation begins. Years ago, I met a young man at one of my talks. He stood up during the Q&A and said, "Jim, I feel like a failure. Everyone my age is ahead. They've got the cars, the houses, the lifestyle. I'm working 2 jobs just to stay afloat." And I said, "Let me ask you something. Were you giving your best yesterday?" He nodded. "Yes." Then today I told him, "Your only job is to do better than you did yesterday. That's it. Because if you do that long enough, the world won't be able to ignore you. He stood there, quiet. I saw the weight leave his shoulders. See, we were never meant to run the same race. We all have different obstacles, different starting lines, different missions, and trying to compete with someone who's not on your road only delays your own arrival. But when you decide, truly decide, to compete with who you were yesterday, now you're playing a game you can win. You stop chasing trends and start building roots. You stop rushing the process and start honoring it. You stop performing for the world and start becoming for yourself. And here's the beautiful part. Every step, no matter how small, becomes sacred. Every failure becomes feedback. Every delay becomes a lesson. So if you're not where you want to be right now, don't panic. Just ask yourself, am I further than I was last month, last year, last season? If the answer is yes, you're winning. And if the answer is no, don't beat yourself up. Just get back in the ring. Your only opponent is yesterday's version of you. At the end of the day, no one else walks in your shoes. No one else knows your battles. And no one else gets to define your worth. So stay in your lane, honor your pace. And remember, the only race worth running is the one where the finish line leads back to your own purpose. It's easy to compare yourself when you're unclear about where you're going. When the road is foggy, everyone else's path looks clearer. You start wondering, am I doing it right? Why do they have it all figured out? And suddenly, the doubts creep in. But here's a simple truth. Clarity kills comparison. When you know exactly who you are, what you want, and where you're going, you stop measuring yourself against others. You start focusing on your own mission. And that's when you realize there's no competition but the one you create for yourself. Let me share a story with you. A few years ago, I was speaking at a seminar. A young man came up to me afterward, looking troubled. He said, "Jim, I'm stuck. I feel like I'm running in circles. I see my friends succeeding, moving ahead, and I'm just sitting here, unsure what to do next." I asked him, "What do you really want? What's your clear vision for your life?" He paused, unsure. He'd never truly asked himself that before. You see, when you don't have clarity, you'll always be looking for external validation. You'll be searching for the next shiny thing, the new success story, the latest trend. And that's dangerous, because it's impossible to hit a target you can't see. So I told him, get clear on who you are and what you stand for. Get clear on your purpose. And once you have that clarity, you'll stop comparing your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20. He looked at me, and for the first time, he understood. Clarity doesn't just give you a direction. It gives you peace. You stop chasing things that aren't yours. You stop worrying about people who are running their race. And you start building your own. Think about it. Every time you feel that rush of jealousy or insecurity, ask yourself, am I clear on what I'm building? Am I focused on my journey? Or am I looking at someone else's road? When you know your why, when you understand your vision and your goals, comparison loses its power. It becomes irrelevant. You start asking, how can I make progress today? How can I make my own path clearer? It's not about being better than others. It's about being better than you were yesterday. And when you have that focus, that clarity, you'll look around and you'll realize you're too busy building your own success to worry about anyone else's. So let me ask you, what's your vision? Do you have it clearly defined, written down? If not, start there. Start with you. Start with the clarity that only you can give yourself. Because the moment you decide what your life is about, the comparison game ends. You'll be too busy with your own race to care about who's ahead or behind. And that, my friend, is freedom. The freedom to focus on what matters most, your life. The moment you stop watching others is the moment you start leading yourself. You were never meant to blend in. You were meant to build. You were never meant to follow. You were meant to forge. So stop watching. Stop waiting. Start working. Let them wonder where you went. And when they find you again, they won't even recognize who you become. Because the moment you focus on yourself is the moment you become unstoppable.